can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. We are once again in preview mode, Elliot, Grigg and I, this time for a WBC World Welterweight title fight happening at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on Saturday, July 19th. The return of the veteran Hall of Fame legend that is Manny Pacquiao. I can't believe we're discussing a fight in 2025 that Manny Pacquiao is fighting for a world title. But here we are. Before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you're not doing so already. All of your boxing needs up and under one roof. So please do check it out. Elliot, delighted to be joined by you. Barrios, Pacquiao, as I mentioned, WBC world title on the line here. Give me your thoughts and your prediction as we close in on fight night. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, you know what? My thoughts are this is a bizarre fight in many ways. I'm not going to cast aspersions that Manny Pacquiao's, on enhancements, but I think he should be. If he's coming back to the ring, obviously at this age, against a guy who's obviously an active world champion, sorry, and there's been obviously, far more active than he has. I feel like in many ways, if he's not on some sort of enhancements at his age, he's going to be dangerous, even more dangerous than it is for him actually to take part in this fight. So for me, it kind of seems reckless all round. I know obviously Manny Pacquiao is a legend of the sport. But it just seems bizarre at this stage to walk back and have no fight, essentially come straight back into a world title shot. And if you look at, I suppose, some of the guys that have crossed over, obviously, looking at Ugas, obviously was a guy that beat Manny Pacquiao back in 2021. You look at Barrios has beaten him obviously in 2023 as well. And I just look at this and I think there's not many 46-year-old lads that are competing at the world championship level of boxing. So for me, I can't sit here and say that I think Manny Pacquiao is going to win this, frankly, because I don't think he is. The question for me is, does Barrios stop him? I think if Barrios does stop him, it's quite tragic, frankly. If we see Manny Pacquiao get hurt, but if Barrios actually carries power, he's got a good sort of KO percentage. I don't know whether Barrios will let him see the end of the fight and win it on points, or whether Barrios will stop him. That's my consideration, to be honest. Like, I'm not saying it'll be as wide as this, but like how Jake Paul just let Tyson kind of move around and then kind of just like did what he wants and like cruise the victory. Whether he'll do that to a legend or whether he'll just go in there and can stop him. So I can see a world where there's a late Barrios KO here, due to sort of just accumulation and kind of Pacquiao like fatigued and just taking too much for beating and the ref stops it. So I'm going to go in there and say that Barrios wins by stoppage somewhere around sort of eight.
Yeah, see, why is this fight happening? I mean, well, we all know why. But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't understand it. I understand it's very difficult, clearly, for fighters to let go and they feel that they've still got a lot left, and that just happens a lot in boxing. And you don't want to see fighters hurt, especially legends like Manny Pacquiao. I mean, fair play to him. He still wants to. He's still fit. He's still healthy at 46 years of age. But like, I don't have a problem with him having exhibitions. Have the Floyd Mayweather rematch, but for 100 million with not with head guards on or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't want you. You're not at the level where you can fight for a world welterweight title, one of the best fighters in the division, off a what 5 year layoff and what another 4 year left, sorry, and then another 2 years on top of that since you last won in the ring. I think that fight against Ugas where he was beaten, like he looked a shadow of himself, Pacquiao, didn't he? And like he's only gonna he's another 4 years older now, so he's only gonna be worse and slower. Barrios is also 6 foot for a welterweight. He's massive. It's a Barrios knockout here. I think it could be a sad affair. If Barrios doesn't stop Manny Pacquiao, for me, it's shocking. I think he kind of has to. Pacquiao at this stage, he has to beat him and has to beat him convincingly via stoppage. To be honest, being the I suppose the dreamer in me wants to think that Pacquiao will see the final bell, and make it competitive, but I just don't see that being the case. I'm going for Barrios stoppage as well, mate. Somewhere around 6-7 mark. Maybe see Pacquiao getting into the second half of the fight, but I ultimately don't see him seeing the championship rounds and think he's going to get stopped here. So yeah, that's my thoughts and predictions on it as well. Much similar to your own. But yeah, looking at the champion Mario Barrios, only those 2 defeats on the resume, which are Tank and Keith Thurman, so in good company. Do you say after this, going into 2026 or end of 2025, I'm throw a couple of British names at you. How do you feel Mario Barrios fares against Jack Catterall, who we saw beat Harlem Eubank on a contentious kind of fight? It was terrible. He's now up at 147. And a certain Conor Benn, There was talk of a Conor Benn fight before with Barrios. If we ever see him down at 147 again, that is. How do you see Barrios against those two names?
Yeah, you know what? I'll take Conor Benn first. I feel like Conor Benn, is obviously, you talk about like with Pacquiao, you're talking about that with Conor Benn, aren't you? 'Cause there's no real merit in Conor Benn's CV that should suggest that he should be fighting for a world title at this stage, frankly. And I thought I was disappointed around when he fought Eubank Jr. as well. To be honest, I thought that was a fairly low quality fight. Eubank Jr. obviously trained as fuck, wasn't he, at the weight as well? So not necessarily blaming him, but I think Conor Benn vastly inflated, frankly, opinion of both himself and in boxing as being a sort of threat. So I don't think he should necessarily fight Barrios. If Barrios fought him next, I think Barrios would beat him by probably points. To be honest with you, I think Barrios, like you say, is a much bigger man, but I think he just danced around Conor Benn for a fairly wide victory. Um, Jackie Cattle. Now I've predicted, like you said for the preview about Lawrence Okoli, and those other names. You had the different boxers that you sort of predict that have a lot to lose different stages. I have predicted many times that Jack Cattle would lose, but I'm not going to predict that here because I think Jack Cattle's actually a very good fighter, very very good style, very awkward style, not the most exciting or the most entertaining, but I can actually see a world where Jack Cattle beats Barrios, frankly, and I think it'd be on points. Jack Cattle's obviously still active. Obviously had a close fight against Barbosa Jr., which was a close fight, high quality fight. Forget that one against Harlem Eubank, obviously where the cut happened and maybe that impacted it. But I think that was obviously a terrible fight. But those styles are always going to be kind of terrible, I think, when meshed together. So I think actually Barrios versus Cattle, I can see a world where Cattle actually gets a decision. Maybe close, might be split, but I think I'll back Jack Cattle in that one. How about yourself?
Yeah, I still feel like Mario Barrios beats Conor Benn. I think there's Conor Benn hasn't done anything that tells me that he's good enough to beat a world level fighter like Mario Barrios. Do I think Mario Barrios is the best welterweight in the world? No. But do I think he has enough to beat Conor Benn? Yes. The Catterall one as well, mate. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think welterweights, I suppose, without it being, I suppose with Boots moving up, it's kind of opened it up a little bit. You've got Lewis Crocker and Paddy Donovan rematching for a full world title now. It looks like in September, October time. Then yeah, you throw Catterall in that mix as well. Like he's good enough to win a world title. And you know what? I'm going to say yes as well. I think if Catterall fought Barrios, I would maybe favor Elgato to become a world champion finally. But yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not a foregone conclusion. It's a difficult fight, but I would still be backing Catterall probably actually beat Barrios. But I suppose it maybe depends on how Barrios looks against Pacquiao too. But yeah, just before we round off, mate, really quickly, touching on Pac-Man again, the legend that he is. Do you feel that he's damaging his legacy here, especially if he is to lose via kind of knockout?
It's a weird one, Manny Pacquiao, because I feel like obviously people of a certain generation remember Manny Pacquiao as like the free flowing, fast punching Manny Pacquiao that like went through the divisions, went through the weights, but he doesn't seem to I mean, he doesn't seem to feature in a lot of conversations when you talk about like best ever. I don't know whether there's kind of like the fact that his career went on a bit long, or like had those kind of like losses where he looked like the shadow of his former self at the end. I don't necessarily think this is because I feel like people aren't really taking it seriously. I feel if he comes out and he loses, people will go, "Oh, well, he was 46, etc." I feel like he should probably, legacy-wise, should maybe try and fight someone like Jake Paul, do something like that, like get on that kind of like misfits kind of circuit or something, or get on that kind of like influencer circuit, and go and stop a couple of lads that spend most of their time filming TikTok videos. But I feel like this for me is kind of credible. It's credible that he wants to come back and fight at this level, but for me, it just feels like you shouldn't obviously be doing it. You should obviously have a tune-up fight at least. We should see what he's got in the tank. But for me to go straight into a world title almost suggests that there's not a lot in the tank, and it's almost like a one shot, one kill, like Hail Mary throw. So I don't think he's damaging his legacy, but equally I think his legacy is kind of oddly viewed by boxing fans anyway, in and outside of boxing. Obviously with the Floyd thing as well. So for me, no, it just becomes part of the legacy, but I don't think it damages it or improves it. To be honest, if he wins, obviously it massively inflates the legacy. But if not, if he loses, I don't think it damages it. No.
Yeah, you make a few really interesting points there, mate. I can't really add much more myself. I think, yeah, legacy's probably already assured. But as you mentioned, is it? Do we overlook him? And when you're talking about all-time greats and even 21st century greats, probably do actually. But yeah, guys, let us know in the comments whether you think Manny Pacquiao's legacy is assured, or if it's kind of damaging his legacy if he were to lose this, or is it just another? He's already had 8 losses. It doesn't really matter for what's another one. Let us know how you think Barrios fares against the likes of Conor Benn, Jack Catterall, maybe some of the other world champions, Brian Norman Jr., Devin Haney, all of those guys. And obviously, let us know your thoughts and predictions on this fight itself as well. Elliot, pleasure as always. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Paul, as always, guys. Thank you very much for watching.